to another Better Conversations podcast with the founders. We are just here to have conversations on the everyday things we see and apply our youthful wisdom to share our thoughts. So today, we're actually going to jump straight into this one around actually the topic of morality and intentions. And really the question that we're posing today is, do people need to have pure intentions to make them moral? And I think it's probably good to start off with examples. So I hand over to Paul to give you an example of like each side.
Okay, so an example is someone is being attacked and you step in to help them and you stepped in, defended the person. The attacker has now fallen to the floor and broken an arm, and now you're going to prison for GBH, gross bodily harm. So even though your intentions were pure, your actions technically was violence. Does that mean that you're moral or immoral? On the other hand, let's say give a situation where your intentions are not pure, but your actions appear to be, could be given to charity. You could be given to charity to portray a certain image, helping out children at the sick hospital, just for an image. Now, do those children actually benefit from your donations, from your contributions, from your time? Yes. But if you're doing it because you want to improve your image and how people perceive you, does that make you moral? Another example that I really like is Frank Castle. Some of you know him as the Punisher, right? So he goes around killing people in New York City. He kills gangsters and drug dealers and all sorts of like underground people. His actions are bad, very bad, but his intentions of making the place safer on like a wider scale, does that mean he is immoral? But he's trying to make the world a better place. We could take that to the next level of Thanos.
Yeah.
Thanos, in his mind, is trying to make the world a better place, trying to make sure we all have enough resources to live a very flourishing life across the whole universe, the whole galaxy. But what does he do to achieve that? Now, it's very easy to say that he is immoral because he killed half of the world. But can you see how I scaled it up of do the actions justify the intentions? Yeah. And then does that equal morality? What do you think, Kevin?
No, I mean, listen, it's actually a very technical one because if you think about it, you know, like I've heard quotes where, you know, it says stuff like you can love to the point where it's basically like detrimental or like evil, or like it's also like there is obviously a boundary to which intentions, like even if they're pure, get to a point where the actions just become evil, if you know what I mean. And I think that's what you're trying to show with those examples. Like, if despite intentions being pure or intentions being evil, like there's even a little bit of intentions can be evil, but they can produce some good, but up to like an extent. Like, I think the first thing is like understanding like the boundaries. And for me, I think that's what the justice system tries to do. So like the laws that we have in the UK or wherever you're living watching this, that's what the justice system tries to do. I think it tries to define the boundaries, like by which intentions that are pure lead to actions that are pure, and intentions that are evil lead to actions that are evil. It doesn't do that perfectly. So like the example that you said is a good one, where you do something to protect someone who's maybe being attacked, right? But maybe you have a bit too much force, you know, and that person falls down, breaks their arm, or like, God forbid, like they pass away, let's say. You go to prison for that. But everyone would stand by you and say that actually you protected this little girl, or you protected this guy from, or this old man, you know. Like everyone will stand by you and say like your intentions were very good, like you're a moral person. But everyone would still, I think, on the same hand say like, yeah, but you do need to do some time for that. Like you were too forceful, you know. And that's where the gray area comes in.
Actually, I disagree.
What do you think?
depending on the situation,
Mm.
let's say you were protecting a small child from a certain type of predator.
Yeah, yeah.
Some people might say if the person fell down,
Mm.
broke a couple of bones, or passed on to the next life, some people would actually still be clapping for you, round of applause, well
That's
done.
true. That's true. That's
So it
true.
depends on the severity of
It does.
like there's a lot of context for each
Yeah,
situation.
it does. It does. It does. You're right.
So
Like,
continue.
yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, what amount of force should equate? I guess it's kind of like what amount of action or force should you use to equate to that pure intention? And I think that's basically what the justice system does try to do. I think like if it's a question of morality, like ultimately you can be moral but unjust or like against the law. And I was saying like before the podcast even started, like we could flip that example and say like let's say you did see, you did actually see that person getting attacked, let's say, but you
Mhm.
walk straight past, like you don't do anything, right? Like your intentions might be to like just not get involved. You're not trying to, what I'm saying, be like a witness or like end up going to prison for anything like so. Your intentions are selfish, right? So I would say that's probably like immoral. But according to the court of law, you haven't done anything wrong. Like you've just
Yep.
walked past. Like you haven't actually done anything wrong. You're still like a legal citizen. You can still go to work the next day. Like you're you're calm. So I think that's where the gray area is, like where law and morality don't always line up. If you know what I mean?
So then to be truly moral, do your intentions have to be pure and do your actions have to be pure? Do both of them have to line up perfectly?
Mm. Yeah, and I think to be honest, yeah, I think the answer is yes. Like it's
I think so
like
too.
yeah, like but unfortunately, in every situation that won't be the case, and there probably will be times like where you find yourself in that situation, and you either have to make like the moral decision or like the just or legal decision. There's probably times where you have to be like that. Like you said a quote as well before this podcast as well, which was like, "It's not who you are underneath, it's what you do that defines who you are." I think
Yes.
I think that's actually very interesting because perception does also shape a lot of it, right? Like you gave a good example of the person who's given to charity just to like boost their moral persona,
Mhm.
or like like who they appear to be.
Their image, their public
Yeah,
image.
yeah, their public image, like perception, as far as we know it, we don't know that person's intention. So perception, as far as we know it, that person's moral, that person's like a great person. So like, there is also a bit of perception as well, which comes into it, which is like the actions that people do also do, in some sense, shape their morality, and it does come down to your own internal perception as well of who you want to be.
Mm. And I think with that quote, it's not who you are underneath, but what you do that defines who you are. Part of me thinks
Mm,
that it's both things, intentions and actions, make up with your moral.
yeah.
But I think it's a bit slightly more in favor of action. Maybe like
Mm,
55% action, 45% intention. Only because the other 8 billion people on the planet will only ever know the external outcome of your actions, the
yeah.
external, like the externalities of your choice. We
Mm,
will never know the internal conflict in your head and what was going on. And if, let's say, for 10, 20 years, you're only doing good things for the wrong reasons to make sure you have good public image,
yeah.
all of a sudden one day, whoop, you get a heart attack, you die. People will only ever know you for doing good things and remember you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
No one's ever going to remember. No one's ever going to realize or be able to work out you're just actually a menace to society. No, yeah,
Yeah.
no one else will know. The
Yeah.
only person that will know that is you and God, and then that's a different question that I can't answer of
Yeah,
what happens to you then.
yeah, yeah.
But as for us here, the other people who experience the and interact with the individual, you've done good. You're
Mm,
a nice person.
yeah. And that's actually a really interesting one as well, because like you could argue that practicing good actions and practicing good morality isn't actually the same thing. Like,
Oh,
because there does become a blurred line, doesn't there? Like where so like which one do you choose to live by? Because you could say, yeah, I'm just gonna practice good actions, but behind closed doors, I'm just gonna be like, as long as no one finds out, you could be like the most evil person in the world, right? As long as you don't act on those evil things, like you could, and it doesn't cause like drastic issues. You could always be seen as someone that's good, and then I think that does lead to a little bit of a yeah. It leads to a difficult decision. I think people are maybe posed to make, which is what do you want to do? Do you want to be seen as good by the masses, or would you rather be a moral agent and sometimes be seen as someone who isn't good? Like your intentions are pure, but in some cases you're not going to be seen as that good person. Um,
mm,
because not it's weird. Like not all good actions come from a pure intention, and not all evil actions come from a evil intention. Um,
yeah.
and like even in go on, yeah,
I just thought of a situation to ask you
yeah,
actually. This is a bit crazy, but let's say, um, hypothetically, you're a drug dealer,
mm,
a heroin or like opioid dealer,
yeah,
right? And you have a friend who's been a heroin addict for so long, and they haven't been able to buy any of the drugs, so they're on like they're going cold turkey. We're
mm,
having withdrawal systems, and they're suffering. They're
yeah,
sweating. Their hands are sweaty. They're shaking. They got the shivers and everything. But you have like just enough to give them something to do them over, right? Is it moral to give them that little bit to top them up, or is it moral to let them keep on suffering?
mm.
And
That's
then
yeah,
the second like position after that, if they I think I don't know if you can actually die from the shakes. Let's say you don't give them the drugs and they go outside and they like, let's say they get like what's the thing when you get too cold?
um, is it hypothermia?
Yeah, let's say they get
Yeah, yeah,
hypothermia, right? Because you didn't give them the drugs, so you thought you made the right decision, but now they died from hypothermia.
mm,
Are you immoral? Did you do
yeah,
the right thing? What were your actions? What were your intentions? On the flip side, let's say you did give it to them and they injected the needle wrong or they overdosed and
yeah,
then they
yeah,
died again anyway.
yeah,
But you gave it to them because you wanted to see them to stop suffering, stop them from shaking and
mm,
get them the
mm,
shakes and the cold.
yeah,
Which you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, some people might say in
yeah,
that situation.
yeah,
So what do you do?
yeah. What do you do? Like this is interesting as well, right? Because this is bringing in the fact that the conclusion also matters. Like there's an element of time to it, right? Where it's
Yeah,
like you could do something with a good intention and um but unfortunately it just doesn't work out, right? Because over time something happens and it traces back to that one action where you gave them that drug, or I don't know, like you did something, you did something that you thought was in good intention but wasn't. So all of a sudden what seemed good in like that moment, over like a long period of time, that was like a very bad thing to do.
yeah,
Like time also has an element to it, um, which is also interesting, right? Because I wonder if there's anyone in history that like their good intentions or like their good acts, let's say, outlived them in some sense. Where like now we look back at that and we say like that was actually bad. That like if we there's probably probably in history, there's people that at the moment were doing good things, but then actually outlived them to the now in the present day. Those actions have actually led to more problems, and it's actually probably best that they did something else, which probably would have been more evil at that moment, but would have led to better outcomes in the future. You got what I mean?
All right, let's go. I'll go a wild one.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll go a wild one. Some people might argue segregation,
Mm,
like, could be that. Where at the time, segregation, and like, obviously, like, we're not American, so if
yeah.
everyone's American, they can add to add this in the comments, right? But some people argue that at the time, segregation is better integrating society between black people and
Mm,
white people. It seemed like the moral thing to do, but now we have all these bunch of problems. Still,
yeah.
there's actually separate neighborhoods anyway. So even though
Mm,
it's not a legal segregation, it's actually
yeah.
still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like a poverty difference and all of that, right?
Mm, mm,
But some people say that if you go back, and it would have sounded evil at the time to say black people and white people can't mix. That still sounds
yeah.
crazy to this day, right? But let's say they did that 60 years ago, 70, 80 years ago. Like, let's say MLK didn't fight for that type of stuff. There's no civil rights movement, right?
Yeah.
Some people think that actually the black communities would have thrived and been better and would be on par with white neighborhoods and white communities to this day. So that could be one
Yeah.
where some people fought for it thinking this is what we want, this is what's best for us. But some people, like some black scholars or black historians, look at like there are certain towns, I think in like Atlanta, where the black people were actually doing very well for themselves, and it
Yeah.
wasn't until segregation stopped and the white people came in, then the town started getting that diluted and
Mm,
poverty and the money started escaping from those towns because white people came in, set up their businesses, or they went in and taxed them, and they were
yeah.
able to target them through tax and different types of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a one that I think that's an example of something you
Yeah.
said there.
Yeah. No, it's a good
The
example.
time, like, we will never know now.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like there's another one that popped into my head when I was reading Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics. Was around like I guess this idea of positive discrimination. I don't know if that's the actual right term, where like you let people from a certain class or a certain area or certain race or whatever it is that have gone through difficulties get into like elite institutions, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, like
Yeah.
with lower grades, right? And he said like so that helped at that time because people were going to elite institutions, they're getting good jobs, and that's great. But then what Thomas Sowell was pointing out was that over time like actually the grades for let's say black students wasn't getting any better. It was actually getting lower.
Mm.
Or the like he was showing like it was actually getting worse because what happened was we wasn't the bar had dropped for them. So in some sense, at that time it was good, but over time, now what we're seeing is there's actually a lowering of standard, which is a bad thing. So that's
Yeah, that's called
yeah,
affirmative action
yeah,
in
affirmative action.
America.
That's it. Yeah, affirmative
Yeah.
action.
And that
Um,
does cause a lot of problems to this day.
mm,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
right. Because, yeah, the statistics for black grades aren't improving.
yeah.
And some people now say it's actually harming the rest of the education system because
Mm,
a lot of South Asian and East Asian, a lot of that community are saying that they're working twice as hard. You know how black people say they work twice as hard to get
yeah,
where
yeah,
so people, now the Asians are saying they're working twice as hard to get where the black people are
yeah.
because their grades have to be better to qualify for those same universities because of affirmative action.
Mm,
So that's caused a different problem in a different underrepresented underrepresented
yeah, underrepresented.
minority community.
Yeah,
So boom.
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. I think like that element of time though. I wonder if like as agents that obviously can't be in control of the future outcomes of our decisions, we probably just have to say like we're either going to act on good intentions, like with good actions, in most cases today. At least then you're being, I guess you're kind of being judged in your time period. So I guess there's a bit of morality that says like, were you moral in that time period? Because I
I got
guess
counter.
yeah,
Okay, obviously, again, I'm not an international expert or anything, right?
Yeah.
But the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia,
Mm.
some people say, some people would say, not the Better Conversations podcast, but
Yeah.
some people would say he did some immoral stuff or rounding up his whole family,
Mm.
sticking them in a hotel and interrogating them about their business dealings, right? He was
Yeah.
treating them
Yeah.
terribly, blah, blah, blah. But, so some people might say that was bad intentions, bad actions. He wanted to solidify his power, do.
Mm.
In 20, 30 years' time, it could be looked, that situation when it happened could be looked back upon as he was removing corruption from his country so his country could
Yeah.
thrive.
Yeah.
That's how it
Yeah.
can be flipped on the reverse.
Mm.
So right now, or yeah, in the past tense, it looks like bad intentions and bad actions, just
Yeah.
moral. He's just trying to seize power, power hungry.
Yeah.
30, 50 years time, he himself might be too old, might be gone. It might be
Yeah.
his son, his grandson in charge. But now Saudi Arabia doesn't have any corruption issues,
Yeah.
and the country's better served that way. So were his actions now justified, and was he actually
Mm.
acting morally for his people?
Yeah. Yeah. No, again, that comes into time and perception for real. Like it's
Yeah.
actually a very difficult one because also that made me think about like the problem. I guess this is going very deep. Yes, we probably have to not go deeper than this, right? But it did make me think of like the problem of evil as well. Like that's often presented, I guess, against religion as well, right? Which is like the idea that there's evil in the world, right? So and you say that there's a good God, so then like how does that weigh up, if you get what I mean? But then like some of the examples that we're saying here is like, are we just in a period of time where that evil hasn't played out to be good? If you know what I mean,
Mm.
is there actually a purpose for the evil in some sense? Like, so today we're seeing it as evil, like what you're saying of the Saudi Arabian prince as well. Like today, that's an immoral evil. Like, why are you doing that? But then, like as you said, like are we just not in the time period where that action is actually looked back on as, yeah, that was actually really good that he did that because X, Y, and Z happened, and now we're in this position. Um, so yeah, no, it's actually it's a very interesting one, and I guess there's only so far we can see, right? Um, when if we're choosing to live as moral agents with good intentions and good actions, there's only so far we can see to make our actions and intentions pure, which I guess is
Mm.
which is what we get down to, which is I can agree that actually to be moral, to be completely moral, you probably do need to have good intentions and good actions. But then there's a gray area where your good intentions might lead to evil actions, but potentially that becomes good in the future at some point. You got what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
So basically, all we can do is act now with the best of intentions.
Yeah.
This is how I see it. We can act now
Mm.
with the best of intentions, regardless of whether your actions are legally they're good.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
you have to say that. But whether your actions are the like of the best standard or
Mm.
maybe a bit subpar, but then only time will tell if the outcome is truly moral,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah. That's actually I've never actually seen it like that. Actually, this is actually a deep conversation. Like the element of time in morality, I've never actually looked at it like that. Um,
Yeah,
but it's actually true. Like there is an element of time, um, which I think is often missed. Like a lot of people, they just judge situations based on that. But actually, there is probably an element of time that we can't see that we actually have to let play out. Um,
yeah,
and how much time like is required, we probably don't know. It's the same with like I guess that's where the legal system comes in. Like we know how much force, I guess, in some sense. Like you probably shouldn't, if someone's attacking someone, you probably shouldn't go and like go crazy and then like kill
yeah.
them and
Pick
like
up a
try find,
brick, slap them in the
yeah,
head.
yeah, slap them
Yeah,
in the head and then try find like their friends and do the same thing. Like obviously there's you know what I mean. There's obviously an element of force that we can judge, right? But then
yeah,
like but then like, also it does come back to that time thing because like what if all their friends were doing the same thing? Like you know what I mean? Like as you said, like like as you said, like what's his name, the Punisher, right? Like there's an element of force that is clearly unjust today. Like it's clearly like just you shouldn't be doing that. But maybe in the future you've probably stopped, I don't know, millions of crimes, let's say. So it's a weird seesaw when you put in time, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It you
yeah,
can say he's killed. Let's say the Punisher's killed 10 people,
mm,
but those 10 people over the course of the year would have killed 500 to 1,000 people.
mm,
So right now, oh, this is a madman. He's killed 10 people,
yeah,
but 5 years down the line, he's the savior of the city. Like he cleaned
yeah,
up the city,
yeah.
hypothetically. Like
Hypothetically, yeah,
only time can actually then fully determine and judge the outcome of the
mm,
situation.
yeah,
That's why, yeah, I think that's the best way. I'm actually could think I'm gonna look at it from this perspective now.
yeah,
Act with the best of intentions and do actions you think is right in the moment, whether they're considered the most morally pure action or I don't want to say I'm going to act immoral though.
yeah, yeah. You don't. Yeah, I think that's the thing. You don't want to say like you want to act more, but maybe it's the action that's maybe not the action isn't deemed as purely good. Let's put it that way. Because like again, going off and
Yeah,
like going ahead and like I don't know, knocking out the attacker, let's say, right, isn't isn't a good action, right?
it's
But it's
no,
actually
it's not
yeah,
purely good. Some people
yeah,
say
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
good action, but it's not
yeah.
purely good because
It's
you've
not
actually hurt someone else.
yeah, you've actually hurt someone else. That's it. Yeah. So it's not a purely good action, but it is the moral thing to do at that time. So I think I
Yeah,
think I think I get what you're saying. You're getting to the point where it's like not all actions will be purely good from from a purely good intention, but as long as you know that you have a purely good intention, I guess, and you followed up with an action that aligns with that, then you can at least say within yourself you've been a moral agent for that time.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
And you hope that plays out over time and
yeah,
time does you justice.
yeah. And time does you justice, basically. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting conversation. Interesting conversation. Let us know
Yeah,
what
but
you
I think we actually learned something both
Yeah,
today.
actually, that's like, yeah, yeah. Let us know what you think in the comments, though. Let us know if you think that I guess you need to have purely good intentions and purely good actions, or if you agree with us that actually there's an element of time in this, and that purely good actions might not always proceed from purely good intentions. So it means that you kind of just need to make sure you have purely good intentions, and whatever follows after that, as long as it's a action that is in line with that purely good intention, you can call yourself moral for that time, basically for that time. So yeah, nah, interesting,
Yep.
cool. Well, yeah, we'll see you on the next one, and hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you for listening.